Welcome to Fieldsports Britain. Coming up, to shoot or not to shoot, Roy Lupton's making that tricky decision with a number of roebuck. Top gun collector John Ormiston's showing off the kind of rifle that Stanley would recognise. That's not Stanley from down the road, of course, that's the Stanley who met Livingstone. And the pigeons are pouring into the wheatfields of Kent. Bad news for the pigeons. Andy, the legendary Crowman Crow, is waiting for them. We're back on farmland near Brands Hatch, but instead of peas, this time we're after high-performance pigeons over wheat. This cereal crop is full of protein and highly attractive to the birds, even if it's a bit of a challenge for them to land on, which is part of the problem. You don't want too many plump pigeons bending the crop. Andy Crow has been asked over today by farm manager Justin to help him keep down the pigeon numbers. With only 2 guns, they want to make sure the birds don't focus on this thinned out patch at the top of the field. Some hairy poles in strategic places do the trick.
What the pigeons are doing, they're coming into here and they're landing on it and they're pushing. I don't know if you can see that they land on it, and as they land on it they push it down and then they eat the corn. But the problem with this part of the field, you can do so much damage picking the birds up. We shoot a lot of pigeons here, a hell of a lot. This is the place we want to be really. But down the bottom end of the field, it's on chalk. We've got a field of lucerne that's been sown down there as well. So what we're hoping to do is keep the pigeons off this end of the field so they come up through down the other end, so that we can pick all the birds. Because I hate shooting birds and not picking them, so it doesn't matter how many dogs you got, you never pick them all.
We head to the bottom of the field where there are issues to be addressed before we get building those hides. Pylons, again, and keeping the neighbours happy.
Well, I'm staying up, and the other thing they're doing here is coming left-handed.
Yeah.
Then you're unsafe, you can't shoot.
Yeah.
So we have to compromise. Instead of going slap bang into the middle of the crop, doing more damage than we'd save and possibly upsetting next door, Andy sets us up one along the hedge and one at the corner.
Right, this is plan AZY. Right, what we've decided, the pigeons seem to be making to 2 ash trees you can see here in the back. They seem to be making for those. Like I said before, we've got a nursery behind us here. So what we're going to do, we're going to sit down. One of the hides is going to be on the corner of the wheatfield. We're going to put a whirly out in a thin patch of wheat here where it hasn't established very well due to a few rabbits and being on chalk, and with the drought it's died off. So we're going to stick a whirly out in the wheatfield here to attract their attention. Then we're going to have a full pattern out on this field that's just been sown with lucerne. They make for these 2 ash trees. We're going to have one hide on the edge of the wheat. We're going to have one hide about 50-60 yards away. We're going to have a pattern between the 2 of us with a whirly on each end of it. So hopefully Justin will be out on the left hand side, anything making for the ash trees, and he can shoot it safely behind, and I'll be down here with a hedge behind me shooting back out over the wheat. And we'll see how it goes.
Andy has a new bit of kit to play with today to add to the pattern. The turbo flapper, which seems to be doing the job.
Well, the way the wind is, the wind's coming straight up the valley, so the pigeons are going to be coming in here. The pattern's going to be out here. Always put the turbo flapper at the back of the pattern, and then the pigeons just see it and it drops in. It's on a timer, which you do need. It looks a lot more realistic when it's on a timer, so it pays to have the timer. But always remember, you've got to break the wings. You can't over break them. Break them through there, but be careful because the bits can go on your finger. I'm a toughie, so don't worry about it. But there you go, completely broken.
But you've been pleased with this flapper?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. Yeah. I do like this. There's a lot of times I use the flapper and I don't use the whirly, because there's some days they really don't want the whirly, so I don't use it. I just use the flapper, just so you've got a bit of movement. That's all you need, just movement, and that's what this does. It does give you good movement. Always spread the tail as well. Just spread the tail apart. Just make it. That's it. When a pigeon's coming into land, it always spreads its tail.
As always, Andy just wants to get on and shoot. There are birds going over all the time, but they are high. Have we done enough to get them interested?
Pal it through the head, look.
Andy's dog for the day is the lovely Nancy, whom we think is just great. She saves Andy's legs a few times as Justin seems to be hitting them in such a way the birds end up on their backs. It's not a good idea to leave them lying there if you want to keep those birds coming in. After another powwow, Justin changes position in the hope of either intercepting the birds, which seem to like flying over the large walnut tree, or pushing them down the hill towards Andy. Justin is shooting with his new Winchester semi-auto, made famous by a pigeon shooter known only as the Dovenator. Andy has always had Berettas.
I've always had Beretta. I had 300 when they first come out and just worked my way up through, and they've always performed well for me, never had any problems. If I had problems I wouldn't use them, so I do like the Beretta. This is the Technics Gold. I do like it, it's a sporter. It's a really nice gun. I love it. It performs well. It's a heavy gun. I don't like a too light a gun. I've had to go with the new Beretta, but it's a bit light for me. Just can't wait to try it when they bring out the new Sporter. I understand that it's just coming out. I can't wait to give it a go and see how that goes. But no, I've got 4 Berettas, so, all told. So, like I say, they perform well for me, and I'll keep using them. So.
As the afternoon goes on, the sporting shooter editor Dominic Holton puts the camera and notepad down and joins in the action, managing to add to the head count. The last thing you want is shredded wheat. Sorry, I didn't write that. Now the roebuck season is well underway, and the roebuck rut is just around the corner, so bucks are going to get easier and easier. But do you take the shot or not? That's a poser for Roy Lupton. With deer stalking, you have to take the rough with the smooth. Sometimes all the planets are aligned. The lucky rabbit's foot, the piece of heather, and the 4-leafed clover in your gunslip have all done their work. Life couldn't be better. Other times the gods are against you and venison is definitely off the menu. Roy was out this week shadowing his friend Keith on his ground in Hampshire. Keith is preparing to do his DSC2 and wants to take a better look at his bucks. He's performing some simulated stalks. Getting into position isn't a problem. Taking a sensible shot is. Roy explains.
The deer here that we're stalking up to is a young coming on middle-aged buck. I didn't get that close a look at him, and the guys were stalking up to him. The position that he's in now, with his neck extended, obviously would offer a good shot from the very short distance that they were. They'd already got to within 30-40 yards of him. But where he is, there's no safe backdrop. So what they had to do is try and stalk into a position where they would be able to take a shot where they've got the backstop. When he moves further down the line, then he does offer a shot, but it's a neck shot, and it's a little bit further away than Keith was happy to take at that time, which is fair enough. If you're not confident, then the best thing to do is not take the shot and walk away from it, and the buck will be there for another day. With this young buck here, as you can see, he's a fabulous candidate for part of the cull. The only problem obviously with him is the only shot he's offering up in the crop here is a direct headshot. Now, we've discussed this previously in another programme about head shooting, and it can be a little bit contentious when using it outside of parks and using it on wild deer. So when we are for some stalkers, they're not happy to do so, and indeed a lot of stalkers do frown upon the headshot. The other interesting point with this particular buck is he then runs out of the crop, runs up a clear ride straight in front of us. So if we were ready and in a position to shoot, then as he pauses, then he presents a perfect neck shot with a perfect backstop. He didn't turn broadside, but if you shouted at him or called him, he might have turned, or he might have hightailed it out of there a bit quicker. But that's just one of the gambles that you take. But again, you've got with this deer, he did offer up 2 chances to shoot him. after he'd flushed from the crop, so we could have accounted for him. So it really just goes to show that you should always be ready. Be up on your sticks. If you're not happy with the shot that you've got at that time, then you may get the possibility of another one. Now with this buck, it really does just goes to show how close you can get to deer, and possibly when you're stalking through a woodland or high cover, you can walk within yards of a deer that's couched up, and it won't move. And he obviously knew that his best form of defence was to stay hidden, and Keith literally almost stepped on him before he decided to get up and go. And then he went off, but this one certainly didn't want to stop and turn around to have another chance or give a second look. We then came across this buck working down and browsing along a hedge line, and we did a bit of an assessment on him. We could see that his antler was broken there, and obviously that would regrow next year, so that's not a major issue for him. But he was a middle-aged animal, but he wasn't a particularly good specimen. Just an average buck, quite a narrow head on him, and so it was decided that he could be taken out as part of Keith's cull clan. And Keith very kindly offered that Andy could take the shot on him, as Andy doesn't get to do a lot of work with roedeer. He mainly concentrates on the larger species. So Andy took the shot on him. He showed perfect reaction to shots, showed a perfect heart shot. Very good blood trail when we got down to the point of shot, and the animal had taken a sweeping arc round back into the wood and was laid dead about 20 yards in. This was the first buck that we came across in the afternoon, and he was just working along the edge of a woodland. He didn't want to go in. He was quite happy where he was, and as you can see in the photo or in the video there, he was looking at us. He wasn't quite sure what was going on, what we were, and he was quite inquisitive. But he offered two possible broadside shots, but neither of them were very good. This first one, where he was standing and he was facing to the right hand side, you can see that you've got no available backstop behind him. You're just looking into the depth of the woodland there, and the heart-lung shot is obscured, but you've possibly got a neck shot there, depending on how confident you are in taking neck shots. It was probably getting on for 80 yards. He then moves into another position where he is standing with his head facing to the left hand side. And with this shot, you can see that although you've got a very big tree offering what some people would think of as backstop, it's not. Obviously, it's not a solid earth backstop behind him. So again, there's no shot there, or there's no safe backstop there. And again, if you look, that the foliage is covering the heart-lung area of the deer up. So even if you did have a good backstop, there was still no heart-lung shot. So obviously, we continued stalking to see what other bucks were on the ground, and just as it was getting to last light, we came across this lad, and he was couched up with a doe and a kid just feeding in the crop. And as we approached him, he stood up, obviously made us, and he then just walked down the field edge a little bit. We then squeaked him just to turn him. It's still a little bit early for the rut to have kicked in yet, so we just gave him a little squeak on the Botello, and he turned, so offered a perfect broadside shot. But where we were losing the light, and we weren't sure how good a buck he was, it was decided to leave him, and we'll try and get a better look at him in better light. It was very difficult to assess how good he was, and if it was one that Keith wanted to leave on the ground. Again, though, it shows how long you have got for a shot in certain circumstances. So with him, obviously after he turned on the Botello, he gave us a perfect broadside opportunity, and then stayed there for quite some time, probably a couple of minutes, offering different shots before he disappeared off into the wood.
Now, before we come on to the final item, the CLA Game Fair is next week. It's just around the corner. We will, as usual, have our big screen there, 16 foot by 9 foot of daylight glory, playing our shows during the daytime, and at night time playing our test card. Can we show our test card, please? That's my dog. Now, the screen costs tens of thousands of pounds, which is very kindly being subbed by our main sponsors. Thank you, our main sponsors. But there is still room for you, if you are a field sports business, to take a small advertisement for very little money. Just get in touch with me, Charlie, at fieldsportschannel.tv. We'll make the ad for you, and we'll run it and drive people in droves to your stand, or if you don't have a stand, well, it's like having a stand, isn't it? You play on our big screen, people will see it and just think you're wonderful. The other thing we'll be doing there is selling our DVDs. We've got Foxing, starring Robert Bucknell with James Marchington. We have the Pigeon Shooting DVD starring James Marchington again with Andy Pye and Mark Gilchrist. And we have A Year of Deer. That's 6 species, 12 months, a fabulous 2 hours of video. And we also have our competition for a trans canine dog box. Here's a little bit about that. If you haven't entered, listen up. We'll be handing out the big prize at the CLA Game Fair 2011. Here's how. Dog Transit Box Company Trans Canine has generously offered us one of their exceptional bits of kit as a competition prize. For your chance to win a box worth up to £450, all you have to do is send us your shaggy dog story with an action shot of your beloved pooch. We want to hear about that exceptional day's sport with your dog. Your entry will be judged by us and a professional sporting photographer. All you need to do is send your entry to me, Charlie, at fieldsportschannel.tv. The winner will be announced at Trans Canine's stand at the CLA Game Fair in July. Good luck and thanks to everyone who has entered so far. Now let's go to Africa and the early part of the 20th century and quite a bit of the 19th century too. John Ormiston has got a double rifle to show us. I wouldn't like to be an elephant in front of you right now.
Well, no, although this is actually almost too small for an elephant. This would have been used, people like Henry Morton Stanley and Baker and people like that, they all were very keen on these 8 and 10 bore doubles.
This is Stanley who met Livingstone.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, and those were the sort of big explorers of the day. This one's rather nice because it's sort of got rat damage on it in the... Here it's been eaten by rodents, which has happened.
Is that from being kept in an attic, or is that cane rat in Africa?
No, well I would have thought, I hope it's cane rat in Africa rather than over here. And the nice thing from the collecting point of view is it's never been done up, it's just as it's come since whenever it was made, 1850 maybe.
If I were H.M. Stanley and I were heading out to go and meet Livingstone,
yeah.
What would my arsenal typically have been?
Well, he had quite a lot of stuff actually. In fact, I know fairly well what he had because I used to own Stanley's Winchester rifle and his revolver. And what he had personally, he had one like this, a double 10 bore for shooting game, but for shooting at people, he had. A Winchester model 1866 44 rimfire, which took 14 shots, and it was and so he said it was absolutely useless for shooting game, but it was very good for deterring people. On the Congo expedition, they just decided to shoot their way through, and so instead of taking trade goods, they just took lead and gunpowder. And when he went down the Congo River, in the first 120 days they had 34 battles with natives, and so they were literally just fighting their way through. And on that expedition he started with 240 or 50 people in the expedition. When they got to the Atlantic they had about 87 people left alive. So, but mainly that was disease rather than being killed by natives, although quite a few of them fell in the river and drowned and all that sort of stuff.
Now kids looking to take up shooting, the Schools Challenge has a series of events for under-21s during August 2011. Taking place at the Oxford Gun Company's award-winning playground on the 2nd and the 9th of August, the day starts at 9:30 a.m. You are accompanied by an instructor throughout the day. There's lunch at 1 p.m. and an afternoon of more challenging targets. The day ends at 4:30 p.m. and cost is just £109. Visit www.theschoolschallenge.co.uk for more details. Well, we're back next week. This has been Fieldsports Britain, and if you are watching this on YouTube, please click the subscribe button, which is about there on the screen, or go to our website, fieldsportschannel.tv, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see a form with constant contact above it. Pop your email address into that, or next to it, click to like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter, and we'll send you details of our brilliant programme every week. We will see you next week, with any luck, at Gunmakers Row at the CLA Game Fair, Lenin Palace.